Angel's Egg is a weird, great movie. Released in 1985 and notably directed by Mamoru Oshii of Patlabor and Ghost in the Shell fame. Despite his other successes, or perhaps because of them, Angel's Egg kind of goes under the radar, remaining a well and true cult hit today. It's a little too off-putting to be a first recommendation for someone wanting a casual anime flick. Stick with the classics like Spirited Away, Your Name, and, if you're feeling adventurous, the last Naruto the movie before watching this measly 59th place film. And even when you want to get your hipster credentials up and watch some artsy stuff made before the 2000s, films like Paprika, Akira, or Ghost in the Shell are names you're more likely to hear before Angel's Egg. And fair enough, it's kind of a hard sell. Angel's Egg is a weird movie, which is something I lean into when recommending the film, as its more unique directorial decisions were really what piqued my interest in the first place. First, it's worth mentioning that the movie is extremely short, running a clean 70 minutes. It is bite-sized by modern standards. And media being shorter is almost always a boon in my book. The second thing I'll mention is that the movie barely has any dialogue. By my rough count of the English subtitles, less than 100 lines are exchanged throughout that 70-minute runtime. This is insane, and I struggle to think of anything that's willing to be as quiet as Angel's Egg. I remember this was the thing that got me excited about watching the film. Because, what a fascinating and curious choice. It immediately left me with this desire to figure out why the film was made like this. So, if these facts interest you at all, I urge you to watch the film. If you're a bit of an anime hipster nerd like me, I also recommend you watch it. It's so short and gripping, I promise you'll feel that hour just slip away. And then you'll be able to lord your intellectual superiority and Japanese cultural knowledge over your friends. I swear, I didn't just watch it because of that. I pinky promise, guys. Lastly, and very specifically, if you are someone who grew up Christian, attended Sunday school, went to Jesus camp, or whatever other obscure form your Christian upbringing took, and now you're stuck with all these lessons and stories and lore that have stayed wedged in your brain, even as you've matured away from the church, I think you would really like Angel's Egg. So, spoilers ahead for the film, as I'm going to get into good detail on why exactly I like it so much. And also a few trigger warnings, especially around the assortment of religious traumas that people have. While there isn't anything gratuitous depicted in the movie, and I would still highly recommend it, my analysis touches on a variety of the evils perpetrated by Christians and the church, and I refuse to mince words around topics like sexual abuse and murder, so keep that in mind as you watch. What follows will be more of an exploration than an explanation, because, to be honest, I don't get half of what Angel's Egg is trying to say, and I don't think it's meant to be entirely understood. In Gustav Horn's interview with Oshii, he notes how his films are a way of working through his dreams, which often feature ruins, fish, water, and birds. Angel's Egg, like a dream, is meaningless on its own, a collection of memories, emotions, and ideas that our brain pieces together randomly. And like dreams, it's only by viewing it that we interpret these disparate ideas into something meaningful. an act of projection and analysis that creates this personalized sense of meaning to its viewer in a way not too dissimilar from a tarot deck or a horoscope. Thus, treat this as my personal insights into a dream, rather than an authoritative analysis of the text. That said, a large part of why this movie affected me so much is because it was made by someone with similarities to my own life experience, specifically my relationship with Christianity. Oshie is someone who read the Bible for funsies in his youth, and experienced the stories, philosophies, and aesthetics of Christianity from the perspective of an outsider. He liked it enough that he even considered doing a kind of theology degree, and it's clear that all these ideas have continued to be on his mind as he's gone about his life. It's a part of him that he readily admits leaks into almost all of his work, saying, "When I try to create something original, the world that inevitably emerges is Christian." And I am someone who went to a funny Jesus camp until I outgrew it in about grade 9. I went to Sunday school, and I wanted to become a pastor back then because they seemed so cool to me. I questioned and discussed the nuances of the Bible with my parents in church. I wore a necklace that had a shield of faith on it in middle school, and I've had to live the rest of my life since then thinking about all of that in retrospect, occasionally getting to work my experiences into something, like I did with my last video on Elden Ring, or this one on Angel's Egg. And I want to be clear that this isn't about me feeling like our similar perspectives give me insight into Oshie. Rather, it's that our lived experiences with Christianity are similar enough that I could see a lot of myself in the film. The Christian aesthetics that drench this film were ones I was familiar with, or at least were recognizable enough that I could easily project familiarity onto them. Although it took a while for this to even become apparent. Despite its short runtime, the film is meandering. It takes 24 minutes for the film to drop its first line of dialogue, and I spent well over the first half of it being very confused about what was going on or what the movie had to say. My running thesis was that the movie is about a girl who really likes water. The weird fisherman hunting the shadows of coelacanths, the abandoned fish bloodborne city, the ominous jump scare forest. None of it really made any sense until Oshie decides to drop his bombshell 42 minutes into the film and name drops the Noah from the Bible, explaining that this is a world where God abandoned Noah after he built his ark. And just like that, the little worm in the back of my brain that's locked away with my Christian upbringing starts freaking out and banging on its cage, as I immediately start to see a million things the movie might be trying to do. In a sentence, I think this movie is attempting to explore the horror inherent in the Bible and the history of Christianity, in a way that challenges its usual depiction as the religion of peace. Although Rathke put it much more succinctly when they called it Christian Lovecraft fiction, a fucking radical genre name if I've ever heard one. The film loves putting these little twists on classic Bible moments in ways that I can't help but extrapolate into these grand thematic statements. My favorite example of this is how the film twists Jesus' words that his apostles shall become fishers of men, by highlighting the very real and violent ways that Christians have historically spread their religion of peace into the Middle East, into the Americas, and across the rest of the world. Christianity has always been a religion at odds with itself, preaching kindness, forgiveness, and peace on earth, all while inflicting violence and abuse onto people globally. Often, it has a hard time even acknowledging that it was directly the cause of any suffering at all. It took up until 2022 for the Pope to apologize for the residential school system they founded here in Canada, wherein Christians kidnapped, murdered, and raped Indigenous children on a truly disgusting scale, the final one closing as recently as 1997. And they have an even harder time recognizing the ways that Christianity is still used as this weapon of bigotry, often targeting the rights of women, the existence of queer people, and especially the lives of Muslims. The historical conflicts between Christianity and Islam continue to fuel the seething bigotry of today's Islamophobia, where Christians will claim that anything other is a threat that must be eradicated if we are to survive. And this kind of Christianity is captured so beautifully by The Fisherman and Angel's Egg. This veneer of Christian love being stripped away to show exactly what these people are. God-fearing fanatics grabbing at the literal shadows of enemies they killed long ago. As a final note, it's worth mentioning that these zealots are not given the gift of heaven in the end of the film. They do not obtain redemption, recognition, or any reward for their violence. It is well and truly meaningless, done for themselves under the guise of religious teachings. A great metaphor, A++. And while I fucking adore everything that this scene represents, the film is obviously most occupied with deconstructing Noah's Ark, reframing one of Christianity's most classic myths without any of the hope it might have been told with at Sunday school. Rather, stewing in the hate, pain, and awe that filled God's promise to blot out whom I have created from the face of the land. Man and animal and creeping things and birds of the heavens, for I am sorry that I have made them. And it's telling how little has to be changed from the Bible for this story, traditionally about humanity's redemption through faith, to be twisted into the despairing, abandoned world we see in the film. As Crossman's monologue here is taken essentially word for word from the Bible. I originally thought that Oshii might have added a bit of angsty flair to the monologue, but my memory of the story was clearly biased. I never remember focusing on the part where God says, "I have determined to make an end to all flesh, for the earth is filled with violence through them. Behold, I will destroy them with the earth." It's the part we skim over to get to the ending where Noah's faith pays off and he lives another 350 years? What? He died at 950? Whatever, sure, I don't have time. Despite Oshii using the words of the good book, obviously the story told by Crossman is substantially different from the Bible. Like, everyone knows that after 40 days and 40 nights of rain, it eventually stops. Noah sends out a dove, which on its second journey brings back an olive branch, proving that there is now land. But in the film's retelling, despite Noah being chosen by God and faithfully making this ark, something changes. The rain never stops, or at least the land doesn't reappear. And the second time Noah releases his dove, he never comes back. Did the dove find land? Was it consumed by the waves? We'll never know. All we know is that we're still here in some form or another. I think that this addition is fascinating because just like the rest of his lines, it doesn't just come from nowhere. Genesis 8:12 says that after Noah makes landfall, he sends out his dove one last time, just for it to never return. And, I get why Oshii might have been obsessed with this, because what a weird detail to include. The dove in the olive branch, some of the most iconic symbolism in Christianity, is just gone without proper explanation. Of course, the assumption is that it was freed by Noah to repopulate the rest of the earth, as with the rest of the animals. But the film asks how people can say that so confidently when the truth remains ambiguous. This state of not knowing is at the heart of the film, and at the heart of all religion, a state that is resolved through faith. And faith tends to be the main point of Noah's Ark, a theme that is especially focused on in contemporary Christian media. In the VeggieTales. Oh, what am I doing? In the VeggieTales retelling, we follow an asparagus taking on the role of Shem, one of Noah's sons. They play up Shem's stance as a non-believer just wanting to settle down and build his house, not play make-believe and build a massive boat in the middle of a desert. But in the end, seeing that his father's faith was what saved them, Shem begins to also place a bit more faith in God. An act of devotion that is actively rewarded with sex, I guess? I don't know.
You kids go forth and multiply.
I have no idea what that means.
While this episode illustrates the ways that Christians often change the story of Noah's Ark to better get across certain themes, this specific VeggieTales episode was made long after I stopped really caring about Christianity. Although I was obsessed with the Nebuchadnezzar story, we fucking love that goat. The version of Noah's Ark I distinctly remember comes from the Christian audio drama series The Adventures in Odyssey.
Hi, this is Chris, and welcome to Adventures in Odyssey.
Real ones know what's up. In this pseudo-comedy retelling, the authors imagine how Noah might have been ridiculed by his neighbors and harassed by evil secular governmental organizations like the Ark Building Union, city health inspectors, and a kind of PETA-adjacent animal cruelty group.
Been giving everyone equal opportunity. Turn from your wicked ways and you can come up here and help.
Just what I've been suspecting. You're trying to impose your morality on those around you.
Who are you?
I'm Jared Rumbottom from the Pre-Antediluvian Civil Liberties Association.
All of whom are written to be annoying enough that an impressionable kid might begin to understand why God had to kill them all. These caricatures making it clear that their lack of faith in the words of the Lord is what gets them all killed in the end.
God's judgment is coming. You've got to turn away from your wickedness.
Yada, yada, yada.
And weird populist subtext aside, Angel's Egg, like any of these other versions of Noah's Ark, is preoccupied with the matter of faith. But the film is less interested in viewing it as this axiomatically good thing that saves Noah and thus humanity, but rather attempts to portray faith as the complicated contradiction it is in reality, especially in a post-Enlightenment world where it has to contend with objectivity and rationality. The things in the world we can see, hear, touch, and know. We can know the dove existed. The girl claims that this fossil proves it. But where it is now is a mystery with multiple valid interpretations. Did it drown? Did it find land and never come back? Is that even its fossil? And if not, did it ever exist? The unknowability of any one answer means that every answer is inherently faith-based. Similarly, I think in this world we can even know that God existed. He told Noah to build his ark, and he opened up the heavens to flood the earth. But where is he now? And why has the rain not stopped? Did he regret creating Noah like he did the rest of humanity? Did he just walk away from the earth, forgetting to ever stop the rain? It's these ambiguities that the movie revels in, identified most clearly through the egg. What is it? And what's in it? Is it another dove that we can use to scout for habitable land? Or is it empty? Another false hope that God gave us, just like the Ark itself. We can try to use rational methods of observation to identify its contents, but our senses are similarly obscured by bias. Is the breathing she hears from the egg really the bird? Or is it her own breath echoing through an empty shell? What about the sound of its moving wings, equally chalked up to the wind? The girl has faith that it is something, and protects it like it were her own child. She doesn't need to know anything more than that. Her faith in the egg, in God, is enough. It's an undeniably simple and childish worldview, but I've always been envious of people who can believe in things, even if they can't know they're real, like ghosts or magic. Not everyone can be so faithful, especially someone who's seen God's annihilation of the earth, whose followers now rabidly stab at shadows. Someone like that might reasonably find it hard to have faith that God's even here anymore. And after one of the most awful and long pauses that I've ever seen, the man is compelled to break the egg. His faith, and even his lack of faith, isn't enough. He has to know what's inside. Even if it means he's wrong, and even if he kills something precious, at least he'll finally know something. Thus, he resolves this turmoil the only way he knows how. This violent compulsion for certainty, killing the last bit of hope in this bleak world. And even though nothing fundamentally changes, and nothing is actually killed by shattering an empty egg, simultaneously, everything changes. The question of faith has been answered, and God is dead because we've killed the possibility of him. And this destroys the girl. She loses herself through losing the one constant in her life, the thing she lived for, the thing that made her. And shortly after, she slips and loses her actual life on top of it all. But in this moment, a miracle happens, as the bubbles of her last breaths transform into more eggs. Her death creates new life, and in a way reintroduces mystery back into the world. Even if her egg was empty, we can't know about each of these ones, until we shatter them, that is. Thus, her death has rebirthed these opportunities for faith to foster, and maybe, in time, these eggs could serve as a chance to redeem whoever else is left on this Ark Earth. While faith is the biggest question posed by Angel's Egg, I feel that redemption and reward are the focus of the film's closing moments. As the heavens open once more and rain begins to fall again, we see Crossman looking solemnly out to the ocean. The same eye orb from the beginning of the film rises out of the water, covered in statues, a holy procession of angels, and now, the girl holding her egg. My gut feeling was to interpret this as a kind of heaven, a safe haven that lets in the wayward souls of the faithful and holds on to them for the rest of eternity. Itself a kind of ark. But it's a heaven that the Crossman forever has and will be rejected from. The only person who refuses to bow to faith, even as he stares God in the eye. His punishment is a continued existence on this ark, in the end, a fat lie to all the people it claimed it would save, now consumed by the waves. In this moment, I feel the movie makes it really clear that he is truly alone, standing there on the edge of the beach, staring into the abyss around him. But it's a loneliness he chooses, a fact which gives him a sort of power over the situation, the only one with agency. There's a lot of different ways to feel about this ending. My first time watching, I felt that the film was portraying this as a reward for the girl and her faith. But I couldn't help but wonder what kind of reward it really was. I wondered if it was worth it. I wondered if she thought it was worth it. It's one last fantastic ambiguity that the movie closes on, questioning this idea of heaven. While everyone says it's great and awesome, we'll never really know until we get there. In that way, the Crossman's choice becomes a bit more reasonable. At least he knows who he is on Earth. It's the devil he knows. Another great review by Hal Kitchen interprets these statues as being purely symbolic. That while the girl drowns in the bottom of a ravine, her image is used as this icon of purity and faith. In a similar way that, if heaven doesn't exist, the corpses of saints are paraded around to fuel belief in something that they will never get to experience. And these are the kind of conclusions I've seen most often about this film, that it's about a loss of faith, likely based on Oshi's own unique relationship with Christianity. Both the ways that this loss can be harrowing and painful, but in the end liberating. And it's a conclusion I was pretty comfortable with. One that revels in the real parts of our life, our existence right now. Sure, it's painful, but it's critically important. Even if it's shit, it's all we have. We don't need eggs or God or faith. Our existence is beautiful because we exist.
And why does that matter when they're done?
Because what we do is live. The meaning of life is to live.
But in my research into the film, I couldn't help but become fascinated with one interview where Oshi does away with his usual opaqueness when talking about Angel's Egg. Specifically this line from Oshi, which translates to something like, "In the end, I intended to entrust salvation to the girl, but I didn't want it to feel like a predictable resolution. I wanted to give it a certain ambiguity. A bold, clear statement that stands in opposition to more cynical readings of the movie." And how compelling that at one point Oshi thought that the girl is given salvation, abandoning her mortal coil and moving on to better things. In a way, this reading of the ending mirrors the actual story of Noah's Ark even more, where God's chosen are put through this excruciating test of faith and are rewarded for it. This interpretation is so interesting and, I think, oddly beautiful. Despite the horrors, despite the deceit and betrayal, despite the people out there that intend harm onto others, there is something beyond all that, something that we can call salvation, if we just believe. How tragic then for people like the Crossman or me, who just can't have faith in the world we live in. My thinking is simply too grounded in reality to imagine anything beyond it. A fact that makes life less magical than I wish it could be. But this opens up a massive can of postmodern worms that I just don't have the time for right now. Maybe I'll put it in the comments if literally anyone asks. That said, I still don't think that this one interpretation is authoritative. Death of the author and all that. And I don't think that a movie trying this hard to be hostile to any interpretation can ever be pegged down to mean just one thing. As much as I like to think that Oshii is making a super salient point about the ways that Christians have warped the Bible for their own political ends, it's equally possible the man just liked fish. Is this solemn regret on Crossman's face for having broken the girl, invading her privacy and breaching her trust while she sleeps? Or is it something more uncaring towards a god he will forever scorn? And what's the deal with the massive bird eggs that use trees to suck up nutrients from the ground? And why is one of them supported by a smaller ark that sits on top of the large ark we see at the end? Did fish people evolve below the waves to create this Victorian fish city with fish statues, fish fountains, and fish stained glass windows? Are they just fish in the memory of a person who is gone? Is everyone gone and it's raining outside? I don't know, and I don't really care, because I don't think I've ever felt so strongly that a movie was made for me, or, again, people like me that have this intimate, contradictory relationship with faith. Whether or not the imagery used by the movie means what I think it means doesn't matter in a grand sense. I don't think analysis is about being right as much as it's about inspiring meaningful questions and discussions. A goal that Angel's Egg certainly succeeds at if it weren't clear enough. And I wish I could stick a cleaner landing with some grand conclusion, but that was simply never gonna happen with ground this muddy. All I can know about the film, about anything, is how I feel. And my feelings are that I really, really like Angel's Egg. It just speaks to me in this really unique way. And I couldn't help but come back to it when I was thinking about Elden Ring, and the similar questions around faith that it poses. Either way, I hope you enjoyed my thoughts on the film, and I really do hope you check it out and think on it for yourself. Lastly, I just wanted to say a quick thank you for your support in general. Although it's been a bit, my last video did exceedingly well by my standards, and I'm glad that my complex thoughts on Elden Ring seemed to resonate with so many of you. Hopefully I can continue to provide insight into the pieces of media I love, and like always, I thank you dearly for your attention and your time.